Let's record. All right. All right, it's well, my clock says 6:30, so we'll get started here. Everyone can see my screen, right?
I can.
Okay, cool. We only need one. Okay, you up in the chat? Cool. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Rochester Xamarin. This is our September 11th user group meeting. And before we introduce our speaker, I'd like to thank our sponsors. The .NET Foundation covers the cost for our meetup, and my company's just started covering the cost for our annual subscription to the GoTo meeting, so we can do this online and make it accessible to really anyone in the world that wants to present or attend, not just people here in upstate New York. So thank you to all of our sponsors for Rochester Xamarin. Our announcements for this month's meeting is Xamarin Forms 4.3.0 is getting close to being released. They announced a service pack, and one of the features that I'm really excited about is the carousel view. I'll include the link in the chat for anyone that wants to follow along. Get over to it. There we go. One of the big features that I've been following for the 4.3.0 release is the carousel spec, which is very similar to collection view, but more focused on carousel items. So let me pull up the GitHub for show you for those that aren't familiar with it. I believe there's images in this one. So stuff like this is going to be we're going to be able to use in the next version of Xamarin Forms, which makes building out fancy pages a lot easier. I use carousels quite a bit in most of my apps, so I'm really excited about having that come out. They got a lot of other good things. They're hardening up shell and stabilizing a lot of the small things that have been popping up since they've released it in 4.0. So that's coming. It's in preview right now. Last month was Xamarin Saturday. A couple people, myself included, went to on our meetup today. Went out there. It was a really great event. I'm hoping they do it again next year. Again, include a link for people in the chat, and for the YouTube video we're going to post later, I'll include it there. It was a 1 day. Here's a bunch of Xamarin content all back to back. For really anyone that was a beginner or expert, they did a workshop from beginning to end, which is really great for people that never touched Xamarin Forms who wanted to. And when I talked with the host of Xamarin Saturday, they said that the beginners were able to stick through it all the way to the end and really got a lot out of it. I spoke with a lot of the attendees and speakers, and they also got a lot out of the different sessions that were there. It was really, really great content. All of the content from that is supposed to be up on YouTube. I'm not sure if it's there yet or not, but I will get links for it when it does, and share it with the group. Moving back to my slide deck here. But for the reason why most of you are here, not listening to me talk about announcements, this month we have Raul Montero that is going to be talking to us about using Prism library in an introduction to Prism and MVVM. Raul, thanks for coming and being able to do your little presentation here. I'm gonna give you screen and let you take it away.
All right. Okay, so let me share my screen. Let's get started. Okay, can you see my screen, everyone?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
And
awesome.
I forgot to mention, feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'm going to monitor it for Raul, so he doesn't need to. And yeah, so
okay.
Go right ahead.
Awesome. So this is an introduction to Prism. Welcome, everyone. And I'm Raul Montero, and we'll be talking about Prism and how it works with Xamarin Forms development. Great. So as I told you, I'm Raul. A little bit about myself. I'm a senior mobile developer with 7+ years of experience and main consultant at Monterey, and certified when it existed on Xamarin. And well, that's it. Let's get to the main event. Okay, so first of all, we're going to talk this this is an introduction. We're going to talk about how to set up Prism, what are IOC containers, and what the Prism does with it, the navigation feature that Prism have that is amazing, and a little bit about lifecycle management that it makes a little bit easier when we work with Prism. Okay, so first of all, the setup of Prism, right? So 3 easy steps. The first one is installing the NuGet Prism Forms Unity that will install all the dependencies, and after that we just have to make the app.xaml.cs file inherit from Prism application, and after that update the Prism the app.xaml to use Prism application instead of application. Great. So that's easy enough, but it's better to see it in code. So here you have it. It's really similar to the one you will use on the standard Xamarin Form setup, but with a little bit of changes. Here we have the constructor, and the constructor changes a bit. It uses our platform initializer, and it uses on initialize instead of on start to set up anything you will want. This is where you usually assign the first page you're gonna be navigating when the application starts. And this is the register types. Here is where you tell the IOC container how to register all types. So we're gonna talk about that next. Hold that thought. And here's the Prism the XAML file. As I told you, it's really simple. You just change the application tag with Prism application, and be sure to add the namespace, the XML namespace, so you can access the object, and that's it. You have that. You have Prism set up. Really easy, right? Okay, so the next thing is the IOC containers. If you haven't worked with IOC containers before, so you have an idea, the IOC containers is a way to register types without you having to create the new object, and instead you assign the interface to a constructor, and this container takes care of registering for you. When I tell registering, it takes care of creating the instance and assign it to that constructor parameter, and you have access to it without you even having to call the new. And why is that important? That's important because if you're testing, if you're using unit testing, that allows you to mock those objects and make it easier for testing. So you have the standard object that you will use in your standard application, the one the user are gonna use, and you have another version of those objects, mock objects, that allows you to test those changes without having to call a real database or real data or anything. So it's great. And the best of all is that it's really easy to use. So you have these register types here, and all you have to do is call register. In the Prism context, for example, it more than just registering the types, it also allows you to register the pages and the view models is going to use for those pages. So for example, here you see the register for navigation. That's the method you will use to register types, pages. And you see the main page, and it assigns the main view model. You do that, and automatically it knows that the main page is going to use the main view model, and you don't have to set up anything more after that. And in this case, we have some that have main view models and others that don't. It's not necessary to have view models all the time. And in this case as well, we are only registering pages, but we can register any kind of object, as I told you before, and any kind of dependency. So your application is as testable as possible, or a little more testable, right? Okay, and that's for IOC containers. The next thing, and that's something I really like about Prism, is the navigation feature it has. You know that standard Xamarin forms, we have to create the new page and assign parameters to that constructor in the case we want to add parameters. But with Prism, it's quite different. We can use it like a URL like scheme, like you would use on a web page, and makes a lot easier to work with and understand from the beginning. So you can see here we have the navigate async and async back to go back and forth the navigation stack. Navigate by URLs I told you before, and you can have pass the parameters either by query the standard the thing you would use on web pages that will be query string, the same thing, the same style we can say. We'll be using on Prism, or we can use a dictionary as well. Okay, so it's a little bit of comparison of how it works one with another. So in the Prism side, we have the navigate async, and you can see we only need to pass the page, and that's the page, the class name of that page, and that's it. We don't need to pass anything more. The instance, since we registered it before on the IOC container, Prism knows how to create that, so we don't have to take care of that. And this is the way Xamarin would do it. Standard Xamarin forms is creating the new page and using a new constructor. Go back is similar in both ways. We have go back async and go public sync. And passing parameters, as I said before, you can see here the URL like style of Prism, that we have a question mark, the name of the parameter, and equals, and the value, same as you would have on any web page. And that gives you the added bonus that we don't have to touch the page. We don't have to touch the code behind and add a parameter on the page constructor, as we will have to do with the standard Xamarin Forms way, which is great. So with Xamarin, I didn't tell you, with Prism, I didn't tell you that before. But Prism focus a lot on having everything on the view model, so it works. So it is very MVVM compliant and touches the page as little as possible. And this is an example of that. All right, so that's with the navigation. And finally, we have the lifecycle management. This is one of the things that I really like about Prism, and it's some things that are a little bit require a little bit more of work with the standard Xamarin form of doing it. Prism makes it easier and more accessible for the view model. For example, here we have the application lifecycle aware, and that allows us to access this method on resume on a sleep. That if you have worked with either native Android or native iOS or Xamarin iOS or Xamarin Android, you know that those are application life cycles events that occur either when the application goes to the background or it comes back. On Xamarin Forms, the only way, at least that I'm aware of, that you can access those events is for either the main activity or for Android or the app delegate on iOS, meaning you have to access the native each platform. But with Prism, we don't have to. You don't have to implement. You just have to implement this, and you just have to implement this, and you'll get access to those events on your view model, and respond to those actions. Likewise, we have the iLife cycle aware that allows us to access the on appearing or disappearing. This is a little bit more easier to access on Xamarin Forms. You can access it on the page, on the SAML CS file. But since we're working with MVVM, we will want to access that on the view model, so we don't touch the page as much and just let that to define the UI. So with these interfaces, you implement it on the view model, and that's it. You have access to that. Awesome, right? So this is just a preview. Now we're gonna see how it works in action, since all is good, all talk is good, but unless we see it running, it doesn't make sense. So let's go here and have a little bit prepared for you. This is a working demo. We're gonna tweak it a bit so you can see how all the things I've told you work all together. So this is a really simple demo. We have this page, this link that gets us to the greetings page. The greetings page, as you can see, is a tab page that says hola in Spanish, hello in English, and bonjour in French. Here we can go to yet another screen. This one contains a navigation page, and it says goodbye Xamarin and navigates back. Pretty simple, really straightforward. I'm sure anyone that has worked with Xamarin at some point have to do that, navigate with one page from another. But we're going to see how it all comes together when working with Prism and how it makes it easier to work with. Great, so the first thing we're going to see is the application SAML CS file. This one is already implemented, different from what you saw on the slides. We have the Prism application, and we have this navigation service that is the one we use to navigate. I like to use this nav keys class to define constant for every page, so it's simpler and I don't have to remember that. Or even you can use name of, but I believe this is a bit more cleaner. You can use it however you like. And this will navigate to the main page, and this is the first thing that is called when the application runs. And there we go to the register types. As you can see, not all of your models, because we don't have a lot of your models, as you can see here. But we register all the navigation all the pages that we are using. If we don't do that, it simply won't access it. And we can try it really easy. Let's see. If we remove the main page here, for example, but let's remove this one. Let's comment that, and when we do that, you'll see that it will simply won't do anything. You can tap on the button and it won't navigate because it doesn't know how to.
Is your iOS simulator on the screen right now? We're not seeing it.
Oh no, yeah, now it is.
Okay, just wanted to double check.
Okay, sure. So you can see now it doesn't do anything, and that's why. It's a little bit tricky to know sometimes because it doesn't throw you any errors. It just stops working. So it's a good thing to have in mind. Okay, and that's how the configuration goes. As you can see here as well, we have the Prism application setup. You can ignore that error. I don't know why Visual Studio does that, but as you can see, it works as expected. And you can here we add the namespace for this object. Great. So the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna tweak a little bit of the navigation so we can see a little bit how it works and how it differs and makes it easier to navigate on some complex navigations. Since I told you, I have my navigation set up here, so I have it in a single point. And let's start with adding the navigation that is a really standard thing to do. Add the navigation page instead of having it on the goodbye page, have it on the tab bar. Guess the green one. You can see here, if you can notice, that it's really URL-like. It says the navigation page. That is, if we go here, the navigation page is simply a navigation page object. So if you can see here, we're just saying that the navigation page is the parent and the goodbye page is the child. Like a URL, like the page will be in a standard URL on a web page. But if we want to navigate, have the tab bar includes that, we just add it here, and that's it. You can see now that it will navigate. With the next time we run it, we'll have the tab page have the navigation page on top, and the goodbye page, since it's already here and we're going to navigate to this one, it will navigate inside the navigation page. Here we have it, and we go here, and there we have it, and we can go back again. Awesome, and really, really simple. Great, and all right, and that's easy. That's, like a standard thing to do. But what if we want to do things a little bit more complex? For example, we have a tab page. What if we want to make the tab page start at a specific tab and not at the first one? Have a little bit cheat here. Give me a second. And then with this page, now we can see the parameters starting up. The selected tab, and we're just telling it to start with the reading English page. And the reading English page, reading page. No, that's not the one. Reading English page is a tab of the tab bar, and that's why we can navigate there. So we run it again. Give it a few seconds. Awesome, and there we have it. Navigate here, and you can say we start on the hello. And all that only using our URL scheme. Really great, right? So we can even do something even more awesome. There's a concept that Prism implements that is called deep linking, that allows you to specify an absolute URL at any point of your application, and it will override the current how does it say, the current stack of navigation, right? Yeah, the current navigation stack. So for example, if we want to do this thing and navigate, now we're going to tell it on the greetings page, that is the tab page, have a navigation page. Go to the greetings page, select the French page, and go to goodbye. And what that will do is start on the goodbye page, and when you go back, you have selected the greetings page with the third tab selected from the beginning, all at once with one single navigation and one single click. Let's run it again. All right, there you have it. We started on the goodbye, we go back, bonjour on the third tab, and that's it. We have it there from the beginning. And this is really a really nice thing to have. For example, if you are working with responding to links, some sorts, for example, when you need to respond to a push notification or something that you need to start on a specific page of the application from the start, you can do this, and it's just a breeze to do. Okay. Next up, we're gonna see the implementation of the idle application aware and how it responds to the applications, to the lifecycle events. Okay. As you can see, we just need to inherit it from this one. Oh, let me go back here for a second. Great. Okay. Just the way we used to have it. All right. And now we just simply implement this. We are just adding writing it to the console so we know it entered.
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
All right. Need to go to this one. Okay. Let me. Where do we go? If we lock it, we can enter on the sleep. And if we go back and unlock it, it enter on resume. Awesome. So we can respond to these events, and if we need to save a state when it's going to sleep, we can do that. And we resume on the state or get the state get the data from the save state again on the resume. We can do it with the on resume event. And this is a great thing, so we can always the user can always return to where it left, no matter even if it was on the background and it turns back on again. Great. And the other thing we have is the iLifecycle aware. Okay, let me just remove those things here and add these two here. Awesome. All right, so we're waiting. The unappearing and disappearing are called every time you enter or leave a page in Xamarin. The cool thing here is that we're accessing from the view model, so we don't have to touch the page at any point. You can see here we enter on the unappearing, and we leave the page and enter the undisappearing. Awesome, right? Really easy, really fast. Great, so that's basically it for the introduction to Prism. There's a lot more things to do that I would love to cover, but didn't get the time to. There's some things, but I can mention a bit of those. Prism have an alert service, for example. You know, if the alert object of the alert service in the standard Xamarin way, you need to access it from the application, from the page side, but with Prism has a service that you can access it from the view model. And continue with this the MVVM compliance, it avoids using the page as much as possible, and this is great. So you don't need to create an instance of the view model from the page and access a public method to call it and then configure the alert. And also you can have an event to command, for example. I know if you're working with Xamarin and you want to use a command, not every event is wired up as a command, and sometimes you have to go to workarounds with that. And Prism has a really nice behavior to do just that and convert any event and respond to a command without much hassle. And that's the great thing about Prism. It's the little things, and all the little things come up together and make the development a little bit easier, and you can focus on what you want and on your application and the business logic, and not how the MVVM works on how you can do one thing or another. You just focus on your business logic, and that's what's great about this library. Great, so I'm done. If you have any question, feel free to speak or do so. Andrew, I know you'll be monitoring the chat.
We really haven't had any.
I'll leave you guys a mic.
Yeah, we really haven't had any questions during the presentation. So I mean, feel free to, if you had any questions about Prism Library or anything that we've gone over here, feel free to speak up or post it in the chat.
Hello, Raul.
Hello.
I have one question. I want to know how is the performance affected by prints in an application. There is a side effect of using prints?
In my experience, no. I've been using Prism with large projects and production projects, and I haven't have any issues that are specifically related by using Prism. You're always gonna have a little bit of a footstep when you use a framework, but it's nothing that you should worry about.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions about Prism, about the presentation, the code? Going once.
Okay.
Going twice? No? All right. Well, thank you, Raul, for coming and doing the presentation. That was a really good introduction to how to use Prism and get started with MVVM. So thanks again for coming. Before we close up our user group today, I had a couple questions for just everyone attending, and these, feel free to answer in the chat or speak up if you want. And so I created this user group kind of focused in Rochester, New York, and we've made it online because, well, I live way out in the middle of nowhere, so I found it much easier just to do it online. That's really the truth. I live an hour outside of Rochester, which makes it very fun, makes it kind of annoying to get into town, find a location to host it. So I started doing it online to try and make it more accessible to really anyone. And I was curious, who here lives in New York State, or is most people out of state, out of country? I'm just curious. Got Utica, I got Australia, Maryland. Very cool. Okay, cool. Well, Dominican Republic, Montreal. Cool. Thanks everyone for answering that. That's just makes me really happy that we're able to bring this kind of content to people all over the world that want to dial in, and not just here in New York. So that's really cool. The other big question that I had are, right now the format has been very much I talk about some general announcements in the Xamarin space that I find, and then I introduce our presenter, and they present. And at the end, most people just say, "Okay, thanks, bye." And in-person user groups, there's sometimes a group time where people get to share with each other, whether it's before or afterwards. And I've seen some online user groups where they've kind of gone down the list, calling on people, saying like, "Hey Raul, what have you done recently?" And I personally find that intimidating. I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to be called on. Sometimes I just want to attend and listen." And I was curious if there was an aspect like that people would be interested in doing, whether we do it just via chat, or if I said, at the end, like, "Hey, group time, anyone got something cool they want to talk about that they just did?" I was just kind of curious to get some feedback.
Great. I was thinking about that. I don't know. Maybe we can do some time that is free time for everyone, so we can simulate somehow the networking on the informal chatting thing that we do when we are present in a standard user group, and or we can even do some meeting that is just about that. Where I live, there is a couple of meetings that is just about networking and talking on whatever you're on and get to know the people around. That works with the same thing you do. So maybe we can do something like that.
Yeah.
Give the space to do something like that.
Well, it just gave me an idea. Like, maybe what we could do is, like, after the session, say, "Well, we're going to do group time if you want to hang out and chat for a little bit. If not, kind of go." Because, again, some people I've talked to, outside of formally asking everyone here, some people have told me, like, "Oh, it's really great that I can go and I'm making dinner for my family and I could just pull up my laptop and listen in the background," and they're just kind of trying to absorb stuff while they're doing other stuff, where other people are attending, like, really trying to, focus on what's going on, learn even more and more focus than just listening in the background. So, maybe we'll try that next month.
Yeah.
Is afterwards we'll have a little bit of group time where people can hang out and chat, ask anyone questions that want to participate. I like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
I like that. So anyone can join if they want, if they know that. If they don't, that's okay as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, if anyone else has anything else they wanted to share before we wrap up, I'll give you an opportunity now. All right. Well, that's all we have for this month. Next month, we're going to be meeting same time, second Wednesday of the month, October 9th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And next month, we have a really great session ahead of us. It's going to be an intro to Xamarin Shell. So the new shiny feature of Xamarin Forms, Xamarin Shell. And we're going to have an intro on getting started with that, so you can learn all about using Shell in your next mobile app. Again, that'll be October 9th at 6:30 p.m. Thanks, everyone, for attending, and thanks, Raul, for doing the presentation this month. See everyone next time.
Great. Thank you. See ya. Bye.